Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
I am so delighted to see that there's a couple dozen people in the city of Sacramento not watching the game at the moment. What was that? Oh, I have no doubt that there are phones that will be popping out. For those of you not from Sacramento, a little team called the Kings are playing tonight. It's a very big deal for our city. But there's an even bigger deal happening here at B'nai Israel this weekend, and that's that we get to welcome someone onto the Bima tonight as a bat mitzvah, as an adult in our congregation, our community, and that is a much, much bigger deal than going to a basketball game. Now I know who the better grandparents are, so that's good.
She even traveled from out of state to get here for this.
The only person I know who thinks of a destination, I was about to say wedding, destination bat mitzvah as Sacramento. So we sing a song tonight to put our hearts into the Shabbos mood on page 648. Shir Chadash, sing unto God, all the earth a new song. I will sing unto God a new song. Page 648.
Shir l'Adonai, shir chadash, shir l'Adonai kol haaretz. Shir l'Adonai, shir chadash, shir l'Adonai kol haaretz. Now this time, I want to hear some voices. I hear you. You sound very nice. Yes. Shir l'Adonai, shir chadash. Shir l'Adonai kol haaretz. Shir l'Adonai, shir chadash. Shir l'Adonai kol haaretz. Shir l'Adonai, shir chadash. Shir l'Adonai, shir chadash. Shir l'Adonai, shir chadash. Shir l'Adonai kol haaretz. 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 Shir l'Adonai, shir chadash. Shir l'Adonai kol haaretz.
Before we could properly welcome in the Sabbath, we need to properly welcome each other. And in order to do that, we need to stand up, move around, and find at least three people you didn't know when you walked in tonight and wish them a good Shabbos. Does it feel like the air conditioning's on? welcome in the Sabbath Queen with Lecha Dodi on page 138, and we'll be singing verses 1 and 9.
Lecha Dodi Likrat kala Penei Shabbat nekabla Shabbat Shalom Shabbat Shalom Shabbat Shalom Umevorach Shamor v'zachor v'divor echad Hishmianu el hameyuchad Adonai echad Ushemo echad L'shemo tiferet Velitehila Shabbat Shalom Shabbat Shalom Shabbat Shalom Umevorach Boi v'shalom Ateret bala Gam besimcha U'tzeona Toch emunei Am segola Boi chala Shabbat Shalom Shabbat Shalom Shabbat Shalom Umevorach.
So oftentimes when somebody who grew up at this congregation grows up and gets married and has a kid, they'll usually come and have a baby naming here just to please the grandparents or out of sentimentality. But I never think I'm actually going to see that kid again, let alone be able to celebrate important life cycle events with that child. So this Shabbat is particularly special for me because there is a young woman named Sienna Rabinovitz who was named here on this bima and in this congregation. And I thought maybe I'd see her visiting her cousins at their bar mitzvahs. But little did I know that we made an impact on her and that she would want to have her bat mitzvah here. So it is my pleasure to invite up Sienna, who is our bat mitzvah, and to join her, I'd like to ask her parents, Joel and Molly, and her sisters, or whatever sisters are in the room, to come and join us on the bima and to do us the honor of lighting the Shabbat candles. The blessing for the candles can be found on page 120, but first we continue with Shalom Aleichem on page 142.
Shalom Aleichem Malachei Asharet Malachei Elyon Mi Melech Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Bokem L'Shalom Malachei Ashalom Malachei Elyon Melech Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahad negner shel Shabbat. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light.
Barchuni l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi-melech, Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seitchem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Imelech, Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Please rise for the Baruch Hu on page 146.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Please be seated.
Please join us on the top of page 149. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars, creator of the tide of time and light. You guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravim.
Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael, Amcha ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, Chokim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadeta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu, B'shochveinu v'kumeinu, Natziach b'chukecha, V'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, U'v'mitzvotecha, Le'olam va'ed. Ki hein chayenu ve'orech yameinu, uvahem neged yomam v'layla. Baruch atah Adonai Ohev Amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Shem kavod malchuto leolam va'ed. Baruch Shem kavod malchuto leolam va'ed.
Please join us in the Ve'ahavta on page 154.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol avavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol meodecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha u'v'lechtecha b'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha u'kshartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha u'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha leman tizkeru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'tem kadoshim leloichem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem l'Elohim ani Adonai Elohechem Amen.
On Monday night, in Jewish homes around the world, we will relive the Passover experience. Because our rabbis teach us that we're not talking about what happened to our ancestors, but rather at the Seder, in that moment, we are living the experience of the Exodus from Egypt. And so as we prepare ourselves for the Micha Mocha on page 158, that moment of liberation and freedom that our souls experienced so long ago, I want you to take a moment, if you feel comfortable, to close your eyes, to go back to that moment, to what it felt like to stand on the shore of the seas, to look behind you at the world that you were leaving, a world that was both good and bad, a place filled with fear, but also with beauty, the only world that we knew. And then we took a step, and another step, and another step, walking towards freedom, walking into a new world and a new life. How did it feel? What did your heart want you to sing? What were the words that came spilling out of your mouth in that moment that you knew you were free?
Mi chamocha boilim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar bakodesh, nora tehilot osef elem, nora tehilot osef elem. Won't you help me sing these songs of freedom? They're all I ever had. Redemption songs. Malekutecha ra'u Shehu Miriam Seili Anu Be'ameru Adonai Imloch Le'olam Va'ed. Won't you help me sing these songs of freedom, all I ever had? Redemption songs, redemption songs, redemption songs. V'ne'emar ki fada Adonai et Yaakov ugelo miyad chazak mimenu Baruch atah Adonai Ga'am Yisrael.
This last week was a week of great uncertainty in Israel. For those of us who had family and friends there, last Saturday was truly a terrifying day, where we did not know that when our friends and our family lay down to sleep last Saturday night, if they would truly be covered in a Sukkot Shalom, a shelter of peace. And this week, our fear and anxiety continued, wondering what the week would bring, what sort of response would happen. But no matter who we are, what faith we practice, what we look like, what country we live in, truly all we want is to lay down at night and wake up in the morning. And so we pray tonight with the Hashkivenu, not just for ourselves, but for everyone around the world who is truly seeking a Sukkot Shalom, a shelter of peace. Please join me on page 160. Grant, O God, that we lie down in peace and raises up our guardian to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel. For your name's sake, be our help. Shield and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings. Defend us against enemies, illness, war, famine, and sorrow. Distance us from wrongdoing. For you, God, watch over us and deliver us. For you, God, are gracious and merciful. Guard our going and coming to life and to peace evermore. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei Sukkot Shalom, aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. Amen. It's my pleasure to invite up all of our B'nai Mitzvah students, both those in the adult program and those in our youth program, to come and join us on the Bima and to do us the honor of leading us in the Vishamru and the Tefillah, beginning on page 162.
Veshamru B'nai Yisrael et Shabbat La'asot et Shabbat Ledorotam Brit Olam Beini uvein B'nai Yisrael Oti Le'olam Ki Sheshet Yamin Asa Adonai Asa Adonai Et Hashamayim V'Taretz Uvayom HaShvi'i Shavat Vayinafash Veshamru B'nai Yisrael et Shabbat La'asot et Shabbat Ledorotam Brit
So one of the names that we have for God is the King of Kings. For those of you who are following the King of Kings, now would be a really good time to start praying with more earnest. As we rise for the tefillah on page 164, please join us.
Adonai sefatai tiftachu fi akitei latecha. Adonai, open my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor, V'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chatztevot V'Imahot, Umevi Geula Lifnei V'Neihem, Lema'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Be'ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mekayei Hakol, Atah Rav Le'Oshia, Mashiv HaRuach U'Morid HaGashem, Mekakel Chaim Bechesed, Mekayei Hakol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Berofei Cholim, Umating Asurim, Umekayim Emunato, Lishanei Afar, Mi Chamocha Ba'Gvorot, Umidam Melach, Melech Memit Umechayei, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah l'chayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekayei hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom, yehallelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh.
We continue praying from page 172 through 180, standing or sitting as is your custom.
Adonai Tsuri, Adonai Tsuri Vegohani, Adonai Tsuri, Adonai Tsuri Vegohani. Go inside your heart, just be. Go inside your heart and see what it wants, what it needs, what it yearns when you breathe. Go inside your heart and see. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be kind, be true. May they be acceptable to you, oh my rock and my redeemer. You ransom in refi Vegion libi. You ransom in refi Vegion libi lefanecha.
Our thoughts and our prayers now turn towards loved ones who are in need of a refuah shlema, a complete healing of body and spirit. So let's take a moment to think about them, to hold them in our hearts, and to think about ways that we could help ease their burden at this time. In what ways can we offer comfort and friendship? What is it that they need from us at this moment? And in what ways will we reach out to them between this Shabbat and next? The prayer for healing can be found on our Shabbat flyers.
Mi sheberach avoteinu Avraham, Yitzchak v'Yaakov. Mi sheberach imoteinu Sarah, Rivka, Leah, v'Rachel. May the one who blessed our mothers, may the one who blessed our fathers, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, and bless us as well. Bless us with the power of your healing. Bless us with the power of your hope. May our hearts be filled with understanding and strengthened by the power of your love. Bless us with the vision for tomorrow. Help us to reach out to those in pain. May the warmth of friendship ease our sorrow. Give us courage, give us faith, show us the way. Mi sheberach avoteinu, mi sheberach imoteinu. Hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, and bless us as well.
So I hope everybody got a handout when they came in tonight, because I want to do a little discussion. Well, you get the paper. That is way too small for my eyes, so forgive me, but I'm going to use something that lets me enlarge the text. 1 second. There we go. So this Shabbat is called Shabbat Hagadol, the great Sabbath, the big Sabbath. And there's actually 4 Shabbatot prior to Passover that each has a special name, having to do with kind of where we are in the calendar. But it's all really leading up to what is coming up on Monday night, which is, I said it, you should know it, Passover. Out of all of the holidays, Passover could be argued as being the most important holiday for the Jewish people. Not for a Jewish person, but for the Jewish people. Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur is an opportunity for us to ask for personal forgiveness, to be able to commune and to have a kind of a spiritual palate cleanser. But Passover is the holiday of the Jewish people. Rosh Hashanah is the new year of the years. That's when we change the calendar year. But if you pay careful attention to me on Erev Rosh Hashanah, I say on the first day of the what month? Oh, none of you are listening to every word I say on Rosh Hashanah? On the first day of the 7th month is when we change the calendar year. No one's ever thought, why are we celebrating New Year's in the 7th month? No one? Am I the only one who pays attention to the prayer book? You, okay, thank you. Thank you for, just lie to me. Yes, Rabbi, I was thinking about that. What? Because we feel like it? If only Jews could really do what we wanted. That is so not part of our theology, not even close. So, no. Let's count back 7 months. Now, if I was in October, because this October is when we're celebrating Rosh Hashanah, count back 7 months, and where are we? Pesach, exactly, the month of Nisan. So while at Rosh Hashanah we change the year, we start counting the months with Nisan. Why would we do that? Anyone having a birthday? Have you had your birthday recently? When is your birthday? April 10th, close enough. Okay, and what month do you celebrate your birthday in? Do you celebrate it in January at the beginning of the year? When do you celebrate? In April, because for you, April is month 1. And if you've ever seen any Instagram or Facebook pictures where people take pictures of their babies, they say month 1, month 2, month 3, right? No one sees those little things. And that's because they are counting from the baby's birth. 1 second, need a little water. It's a little dry. So for the Jewish people, when is the first month? Nisan, because that's when we were born. You know, we think of Abraham and Sarah as being the birth of the Jewish people, but that is more, think of it as the gestational period that goes from Abraham and Sarah all the way until the waters break. Yes, and the waters break, and you hear laughing and crying and timbrels, though usually there's not timbrels involved. And that is the birth of the Jewish people. Shabbat Hagadol, we are celebrating the great big birth of the Jewish people. And it, for a long time, I don't know if it's still true, but I know that for most of Jewish history, Passover was actually the most celebrated of all of the Jewish holidays, which is not surprising. Jews have an aversion to going to synagogue. I would bet there are many, many more Jews at the King's Arena tonight than in all the synagogues in all of Sacramento combined. Just speaking the truth. However, we do love our home celebrations. We love sitting around a Shabbat table. We love sitting around a Passover table, sitting in the sukkah in the backyard. When it comes to gathering as a family, that's something that we're more eager to do. And Passover is the holiday of holidays to do that. It's where you see all the generations sitting around. It's where even if they are no longer alive, you still see the generations that came before you. For those of you who are my age and older, and you remember other people sitting around the table, when you sit at the table, are you thinking of your parents and your grandparents and your aunts and uncles and, you know, the different chaos and balagan that would go on when you were a child? It's right behind the people who are sitting at that table in that moment. And we see it going all the way back to the parting of the Red Seas and that first time that we as a people crossed into freedom. This is our origin story. Passover is the story that we tell ourselves who we are and who we are supposed to be. And we do this through questions, and we do this through storytelling. And we're commanded that each year we're supposed to shake it up a little bit. We're supposed to look at that moment through the lens of the world that we are living in. And for most of us, when we look through the lens of this moment, it is a very different lens than we looked through a year ago. It is a different world for us, whether we live in the United States or in Israel or any other country in the world. For those of us who will gather around Seder tables next week, it will feel different. When we talk about freedom, when we talk about liberation and redemption, it will be very hard not to think about the people who are not sitting around their tables this year. And so what I gave to you guys tonight is a handout which I highly recommend going online to get a better, clearer copy of. It's from one of my favorite museums. It's called Anu, which means like ours or all of us. It used to be called the Museum of the Diaspora. It's at Tel Aviv University. And I used to find the name the Museum of the Diaspora very offensive, as though Israelis looked at Jews outside of Israel as something to be studied in a museum, and I found that like very detrimental to the Jewish people, because it was like, there's us and we will study you oddities that are out there. Now luckily Tel Aviv University at some point realized the same thing that I had been thinking for not generations but decades, and they renamed the museum Anu, because the story of the people in the diaspora is simply the story of the Jewish people. Not other people, but all of our stories. And so they redid the museum looking at it as, what does it mean that this is our story and our narrative? And with that in mind, they put together a beautiful handout for us for this year to use as a supplement for our Seders, to try to look at things a little bit more in a contemporary way. And so I just want to point out a few things with it. If you look at the first page, hold on, I'm on the wrong page. The first page, which says an intergenerational family Seder guide. This was created for this year. The Museum Anu has actually done a number of exhibits focusing on Jewish experiences since October 7th, looking at art and music as a way that people have used to process what they're going through. And this is kind of an extension of that. And the way they're looking at it is the Seder is an opportunity to tell multiple stories at once. When we sit around the Seder table, we're telling the story of the Jewish people as a whole. We're telling the story of our families, and we're also telling our own personal stories. There are those concentric circles going on. And these stories are meant to help us understand who we are. For most of us, we've been really lucky to be raised in kind of a golden age of American Judaism, where we have known freedom and safety unknown to any other Jewish community really in the world in most of history. And for many of us, this is a struggle to deal with anti-Semitism in the way that we're dealing with it. And so this encourages us to look at our family stories hopefully that have been shared and passed from generation to generation, and incorporate them into the Seder itself. Because we become grounded when we tell those stories. We know that children who know the stories of their family are more resilient. And let's think about that. What are some stories that your families have told you about them that have inspired you? So for instance, I'll give you an example. Growing up, my grandmother would talk constantly, well, I could leave it there, but in specific, she would talk about the fact that when she was growing up, she and her sister were in the accelerated classes, and that in New York, there were two different tracks that by the time you went to high school, you were either in the track that was meant for college or the track that went for a trade school. And she would talk about how she and her sister were supposed to go to college. family stuff happened, and unfortunately that was derailed. But they, as women, way back in the 1920s, were supposed to go to college, and that her mother, who was an immigrant here, went to night school to study to be a pharmacist. So what do you think that told me as a little girl? You're getting a higher education. That you're not going to, your goal is not to just go get married. You're supposed to be educated. That's what the women in our family do. So that's an example of the stories that we're told when we're children, helping direct us and to understand what are the values of the family or what we're supposed to do. So what are some of the stories your family have told you that have helped you understand who you are or should be?
My grandmother was one of those heroic people who taught for 50 years in the public school system in the Bronx, so, you know. And she taught orchestra, and every year the children could pick their own instruments. So some years it was like 4 tambourines and a cello, and some years it was...
Wait, is there music written for 4 tambourines?
Yes, apparently. And so every year it was improvisational, and she told me every year what the combination was, just 6, I don't know, harpsichords and a kettle drum. And I remember first thinking that she was making it up, but then I realized what the story was about is that as long as you're willing to lead, you can make music, literally.
That's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. How about one more? Anyone else? Oh, yes, Vivian.
So this is not as complex, but it's one of the only stories I can remember from my mom. And it's that she used to live on a boat, but she gets seasick.
Wait, so what's the moral of the story?
That she was resilient, and she lived on that boat, and it seems like it was really cool, because she was also like a movie critic, and I was like,
She not only survived, but something good came from it as well. I love that. So now let's look at that and the idea of the stories our family have told us in the context of this year. And let's think about it in that way. So if you turn to the next page, look at the top where it says the stories we were told, we were slaves, Avadim Hayinu. We were in the Haggadah, it says, we were slaves to Pharaoh in the land of Egypt, and the Lord our God took us out from there with a strong hand and an outstretched forearm. Parents and grandparents can, and so this is the instructions, can consider sharing memories from their own family seders. Who was at their Passover Seder growing up? What was on the table? What stories were told? From there, new memories and associations were born. So we could stay with the simple, and we could look at it that way, or we could dig a little deeper. What was the Exodus story that you were told about your grandparents? I would hope that each of you, this is one of the things that makes me so sad about most Americans. Most Americans don't know when their family came here. They don't know where their families came from, and they don't know why they came. I'm a huge fan of Professor Henry Louis Gates, who does a show on PBS. Now I'm blanking. Finding Your Roots. And what does every single guest on that show do when they find out their family history? They cry. Every single person cries, and they say, I didn't know I needed to know this, but I did. That somehow I feel more complete, even though I didn't know that I needed to know my family story. That when we know what our stories are, why we came here, why our family did what they did, it somehow enriches who we are. And so I want you to think about some of the stories of perseverance that you may have been told, of overcoming difficulties, of obstacles that seem too much that your family told you. And then I want you to look at this question. Is there a particular story that was passed on to you that you thought about on October 7th and its aftermath? And why did you think of that story? And what did you draw from it? What were some of the thoughts we had at that moment? Did anybody think, oh my God, this has never happened in all of Jewish history? Not in the least. Dr. Hamill, what did you think about?
was simple. It's happening again.
And did you draw comfort from that thought? No. The past was prologue. So you and I tend to be a little bit different. You tend to be a little bit more, there's a hole in the bottom of the cup. And I tend to be a little bit more optimistic. So like you, I did think it's happening again. But instead of the Holocaust, what I thought about was a different story that we don't tend to talk about. Well, not only do we not tend to talk about it a lot, most American Jews have no idea about it. And what I thought about was something that happened to my family, and it was called the Farhud. Raise your hand if you've ever heard the word Farhud before. Wow, that many people? That actually is a lot more than, well, okay, first of all, 3 of the 5 people are members of my family, so I didn't know you were listening. That's kind of exciting. The Farhud were the Iraqi versions of a pogrom. So what happened was, in the middle of the 20th century, Iraqi Jews were kind of like, to a degree, German Jews before World War II, in the sense very integrated, very successful, very educated, particularly those in Baghdad, and didn't necessarily live in Jewish neighborhoods, but had a lot of non-Jewish friends and neighbors and business partners. And one morning they woke up and their friends and neighbors were massacring them. Not long after that, surprise, surprise, Iraqi Jews fled. And where did they flee to? Well, they fled through Iran to Israel. And it became the exodus of Iraqi Jews to Israel. And that's something that I've held on to since October 7th. The idea that, yes, it's happening again, and we lived through it. And we were able to survive and to persevere. And maybe we didn't stay in the same place, but we survived it. And for me, as I've looked at the anti-Semitism since October 7th, that's what's gotten me through. That the idea that we've had to pick up, and it's hard and it's terrifying for the generation that does it, but their children come out better. So let me ask you guys, what are some of the family stories that you've drawn strength from in the months since October 7th? Are you all like depressive Ashkenazi Jews? Is this the case? Oi! What? Oh, Davida.
My grandfather came from Lithuania when he was, I think, about 8 or 9, and he shared a lot about those stories. And when his family first moved here, they lived in a 1-bedroom, and he shared with his 5 other brothers in one bed, and he just talked about how important that was for them as a family to be here in the States, but it took a lot of work, and they had to be resilient. And at a time where, as a Jew, when he was applying to college, nobody could know he was Jewish. So he actually changed his name here in the States. He did this, and so it was first Winkelstein and Winkelstein to Winkel, and he ended up in Northwestern. And then when he ended up owning a business, he hid the fact that he was Jewish, and then little by little he started sharing, and then he became a very strong, proud Jew.
And how was it for the next generation?
He taught them the importance of family, taught them the importance of community, taught them the importance of hard work.
And you know what's another word for all of those? Resilience. To not be defeated by the moment. So this coming Seder is going to be hard, and it is going to be different. But it's also important. It's important that we tell the stories not only of oppression and persecution, because is Passover a story of oppression and persecution? No. It's the story of liberation. Passover is this season in the calendar, according to the Jewish people, this is the season of our liberation. And it's important to remember that. We tell these stories not so we become depressed, not so we become paralyzed by the past, but that we remember that there are others who have experienced what we have experienced, and they survived, and they flourished. And they gave us a beautiful legacy of these stories to sustain us in difficult times. Because what is most of the Jewish holidays summed up as? They tried to kill us, we won, let's eat. It's about resilience and having a really good menu to commemorate it. Chag Sameach. So it's my pleasure to invite up Davida Levin Robinson, our Vice President of Membership, to give some Shabbat greetings and announcements.
Thank you, Rabbi Cantor, for a beautiful service. Shabbat Shalom to everybody here. And I know it was a really nice way to hear the drash as we enter the Passover season. And even though this is a difficult time for us as the Jewish people, to remember those stories of our family, of our loved ones, and as we're all around the table, may you all have meaningful Seders this year with your families and friends. There's going to be an oneg following the service that is sponsored by the B'nai Mitzvah class in honor of Sienna, who's getting her bat mitzvah here tomorrow. 9:30 a.m. Tomorrow morning, before the wonderful Shabbat morning service for Sienna, is the weekly Torah study. It's going to be in person and on Zoom. Then there is a 5-session CBI leadership class that is starting this Sunday at 10:15. And this is for strengthening the fabrics of our temple community. And for more information on all the dates, please visit the website or through the Chadashot. The Pride Committee is having their spring seminar. They had their first session last week. This one is at 1:00 p.m. this week, and it's with a panel of adult and teen congregants sharing their gender identity experiences. And there's going to be pizza beforehand. So come around like 12:30, 12:45 for pizza, and then at 1:00 it will be starting. No RSVP is required. The website has tons of Passover resources if anyone is interested. The gift shop is open this Sunday from 10:30 to 1:00, and I was in there last week. There's lots of Passover stuff, including some gifts for Afikomen if you need to buy Afikomen gifts. There is, if you're looking for a Seder, if you call the office, there's some congregants who have opened up their homes. And if you are interested in opening up your home, please call the synagogue by Monday at 10:30 a.m. The office is going to be closed starting at 12 p.m. on Monday, and then on Tuesday the office will be closed. Then on May 10th is our second Shabbat dinner, which we are going to be celebrating Cantor Steinberg. The dinner has a wonderful turnout already, and we still have more room. If you're interested, please sign up. It's going to be a wonderful Israel spread, and then we're going to have a beautiful service and an oneg sponsored by Wibby and the Brotherhood. Also, Camp Shalanu is right around the corner, so this is open from kinder through 5th graders, and it's an amazing day camp. It reminds me of my time when I was a kid going to the camp near my house. I was at a couple Jewish camps, and you could do 5-week sessions to 1-week sessions, and this is also, there's been plenty of grandparents or relatives over the years that have had their kids come stay with them, grandkids, and send their kids there. There is so much more in the website and the Chadashot. I'll also be at the oneg for more questions. I would like to next have Sienna introduce her family and her loved ones who come from near and far.
If my family will please stand up. Okay, this is my little sister Kiara. This is my mom, Molly, my dad, Joel, my best friend, Ayelet, my mom's dad, Uga, my dad's mom, Nana, his name is Michael, my dad's mom, Nana, or Hope, my dad's dad, Pop-Up or Jeff. This is my cousin Zevi, my uncle Joe, my cousin Chris, my cousin Annabelle, my cousin Sage, my cousin Erin, my cousin Shale, my Aunt Shelley, my Aunt Wendy, my Aunt Jan, my Grandma Kathy, my Aunt Hannah, my Uncle Steve. And these are my cousins Mark and Gina. They told me.
Shabbat Shalom. Sienna, I think you got this tomorrow. You're good. So next, if I could have any past presidents, any board members, which I might be the only one in here tonight, and any committee chairs stand up so we could introduce you.
Hi, Nita Davidson. I'm the Shamas coordinator.
I'm Steve Orkin. I'm a past president.
I'm Hope Rabinovitz, a past president.
I'm Jeff Rabinovitz. I'm not a past president.
Of the Brotherhood.
But I'm also co-chair of the Israel Committee.
Thank you. Shabbat Shalom, and I hope to see you at the Oneg.
Well done, Sienna. The scariest thing is having to introduce your family, so mazel tov. You are completely prepared for it. Honestly, more scary than chanting Torah. So, don't you feel that way? So, it's my pleasure to invite up all of our B'nai Mitzvah students of all ages to join us once again on the Bima, to lead us in the Aleinu, which can be found on the bottom half of page 586. Please rise. Oh, no.
Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, latet kedula leotzer breshit, shelo asanu kegoyei haratzot, velo samanu kamishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, umishtachavim umodim, lifnei melech malchei hamachim, hakadosh baruch hu, shehu notei shamayim v'yosed haaretz, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינת זו בגובי מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Please be seated.
So you can listen for a sec while we do the Kaddish. Our thoughts now turn to loved ones who are no longer with us. And with sadness, we recall the recent passing of Arlene Singer, the former B'nai Israel Temple administrator and member of our congregation. Also, sadly, we recall the recent passing of Judy Skopicki, the beloved grandmother of Deborah Freeman, beloved grandmother-in-law of Benjamin Freeman, and great-grandmother of Sophia and Eleanor Freeman. Also, sadly, we recall the recent passing of Marilyn Kaur, beloved mother of Doug Kaur, mother-in-law of Samra Kaur, and grandmother of Zachary and Ariel Kaur. Also, sadly, we recall the recent passing of John Stevens, beloved father of Meredith Halseth, beloved father-in-law of Matt Halseth, and grandfather of Maddie, Olivia, and Jacob Halseth. Also, sadly, we recall the recent passing of Ruth Selma Bolin, the beloved mother of Hope Rabinovitz, beloved mother-in-law of Jeff Rabinovitz, and beloved grandmother of Shelley Pruger and Joel Rabinovitz, beloved grandmother-in-law of Joe Pruger and Molly Rabinovitz, and beloved great-grandmother to an adorable gaggle of great-grandchildren. Zichronam livracha, may they all forever be a blessing. We also recall loved ones who have passed away at this time in years past. We remember Julius Abrams, John Allen, Mort Behrman, Lizelate Berghausen, Sam I. Bond, Marshall Boschus, Lauren Chatham, Myron Citronbaum, Celerina Christie, Jaime DeVore, Stella Assis DeTursi, Eli Dworkin, Albert Elias, William Emick, Bernice Galt Epstein, Francis P. Farber, Barbara Fenner, Edith Finkelman, Marvin Freifeld, Robert Gisser, Helen Goldberg, Bill Goodwin, Marilyn Gressman, Alice Hamill, Abe J. Harris, Ernest Holland, Hulda Jacobs, Fiona Laws, Ivan Levin, Harold O. Livingston, Paul London, Eleanor Marks, Jerome Melvin, Herbert Mendel, Helen Mendick, Eric Nance, Robert Oblath, Sidney A. Perlis, Howard Pockris, Bernice Poors, Giselle Proper, Jamie Reines, Greg Roth, Jack Roth and Janice Roth, Beatrice Roth Zimmett, Norma Scott, Morley Siegel, James Shelton, Martin K. Small, Erwin Stein, Ralph Swerdlow, Ari Tanner, Ben Ten, Ray Usher, Marianne Vanderwerf, Betty Vickery, Ingeborg Walds, and Michael Weitzman. If there are any names that anyone would like to add to the Kaddish list tonight, please feel free to call those names aloud as my gaze meets yours. If you're saying Kaddish for a loved one tonight, I'd like to invite you to please rise. And if the congregation can please join me in these words of comfort. Hamakom yenechem etchem betok sha'ar of Leit Zion v'Yushalayim. May God comfort you among the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. We rise to offer comfort to those who grieve as we continue together on page 598. Yitkadal v'yitkedash shemei rabbah, be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'izman kariv v'imru, amen. Yehi shmei rabbah mebarach le'olam umei amaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitraman v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudsha barichu, Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, damiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Osei shalom b'marmav, hu ya'asei shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. And let us say,
Amen.
please be seated. Cantor Steinberg, what beautiful song do you have us to conclude our service with tonight?
Oh, Rabbi Alfie, funny you should ask.
Go figure.
Listening to what you were teaching tonight so beautifully about this being our birthday.
Are we going to sing your song's happy birthday? Or your dad's happy
No,
birthday
not my
song?
dad's. No. Although if anybody wants to know it, I'll let you know later.
It's your birthday.
It's great that you know it. I think we should first sing a little Yom Huledet Sameach La'am Yisrael.
Take it away,
I
Cantor.
really do, because we should, I agree with you. I don't think we think about it in this way. I don't think people realize this is the birth of who we are as a Jewish people.
It's our 4th of July.
No, I think it's even bigger than that. I do. I think it's.
I don't know. I was watching the
the-
Benjamin Franklin mini-series earlier.
A very good man.
He would have said that was a big deal.
It was a big deal. But this is the birth of who we are inside.
So to translate a little bit of the Hebrew that she said, so Am Yisrael means the Jewish people, which is different than Medinat Yisrael, which means the Jewish nation. So Yom Ha'atzmaut, not Yom Ha'atzmaut,
Pesach. Oh.
no.
Yom Ha'atzmaut.
No, that's not what I was going to say. Hatikva.
Hatikva.
Hatikva is what we sing on Yom Ha'atzmaut, which is Israeli Independence Day, is different
Than our birth.
than our birth. That is the birth. I was going to say birth of a nation.
No.
That was the birth of a country,
Don't say that.
but the birth of our people is Passover, or not? Yes. So I'm just going to stop.
You'll get it.
Am Yisrael is talking about the people, not the political entity.
Well, first I think we should sing a little Yom Huledet Sameach, and then I think we should sing on page 652 a little Bashana Haba'ah, so that we end our Seder with next year in Jerusalem. And there's physically next year in Jerusalem, but there's also emotionally and spiritually next year and all year and every year in Jerusalem. So, Yom Huledet Sameach, Yom Huledet Sameach, Yom Huledet Sameach, Yom Huledet Sameach.
And many more.
Yes, please God.
Page 652.
בשנה הבאה נשב המרפסת ונספור ציפורים נודדות. ילדים בחופשה ישחקו תופסת בין הבית לבין השדות. עוד תראה כמה טוב יהיה בשנה הבאה. עוד תראה כמה טוב יהיה בשנה הבאה. Let's do the chorus again. עוד תראה כמה טוב יהיה בשנה הבאה. עוד תראה כמה טוב יהיה בשנה הבאה. Halavai.
God willing, yes. We conclude the service with the Kiddush and the Motzi. The Kiddush can be found on page 123. Afterwards, we hope everybody joins us for the delightful oneg awaiting us. And the last challah you get to eat for 2 weeks.
Yes. Do you want to get the Kiddush? Oh, page 120. You got it. You get an extra one. You ready? Ooh. Was it the right color?
It's grape juice.
Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho באהבה וברצון נמחין לנו זיכרון למעשה בראשית כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש זכר לציית מצרים כיוון בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל עמים בשבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו רוחי ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת אמן לחיים ולשלום.
Is it a good month?
You want to finish it?
You drink the whole thing?
You're like, no, thank you.
Ready, Cantor?
I am so ready.
So for those of you who have not joined us at Shabbat services before, this challah is for blessing purposes only because we're touching it and God knows who else has touched it. There will be a beautiful, fluffy, yummy challah that has not been touched all over that will be awaiting you in the social hall. I highly recommend you have it because you will not get it for what seems like an eternity during Passover.
Are you already having a little bit of
I'm already
withdrawal?
having anxiety.
Yeah, you are.
Because I saw all the boxes of matzahs lined up in my house, and my stomach went, ow.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I want to join your
Yeah, they've
appearance.
actually already put figs out in the conference room for the staff.
I like this.
I don't like that.
I do. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Shabbat shalom v'teavon.